Michele Tafoya is with me now, my colleague on the Salem Podcast Network, one of the most famous broadcasters in, I would say, sports history, and is now a candidate for Senate in Minnesota, her home state. Michele, I've been wanting to connect with you about Minnesota, and I'm really glad you're here under these circumstances, which is even better. I think this is terrific news, and you're going to have a contested primary. You're going to have a very hard race in a blue state. But what made you think this is the moment?
Well, look, we're having a crisis here in Minnesota. You're well aware of that. Most people are. We have a crisis of leadership, and the career politicians who brought us to this place aren't helping, and they're not going to do anything about it. So it's going to be up to the rest of us. You know, I've lived here for 30 plus years, 32 years now, I think. And I remember Minnesota, the peaceful streets, the quiet towns, the tight-knit communities, the excellent schools. And we've been sliding backwards. And I've noticed this it's not sudden, it's been happening. But now we have a Senate seat that is open, and I'm ready. And you know what? The career politicians can keep moving their chess pieces around and trying to put people in different offices, but they are not fixing everything. And we are at a crisis stage. And so that's why I'm running.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it must hurt to be a Minnesotan and to see what's going on where the whole country is pointing at your state and saying this is a disgrace. And I'm glad you're running for the Senate because it's such a blue state. The governor race would seem very tough. And I know there's a governor race coming up. But I want to make sure that there is some responsible conservatives who are there in that state keeping an eye on things, because it's not just Tampoon Timmy Walz who is responsible for the Somali fraud. I think anyone who's held power in that state bears some of the responsibility. That includes Amy Klobuchar. It includes any mainstream Democrat.
And that includes Peggy Flanagan. We could call it the Flanagan fraud. She is the lieutenant governor under Tim Walz. And it includes Angie Craig, who was in Washington as a congresswoman and was supposed to be minding the store. No one put a stop to this. No one asked questions because they were politically incorrect or inconvenient questions. So this fraud makes everyone in Minnesota sick. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on or where you lie politically. This was billions, and we don't even know the grand total yet, Alex, as you know.
Yeah.
But this was billions of dollars that was intended for children, and it went to these criminals so that they could have beachfront property and really nice vacations and jewelry. So this is sickening to everyone. And again, it really started with a crisis of leadership and the unwillingness of people like our Attorney General, Keith Ellison, the unwillingness to do the work and ask the questions and take care of Minnesotans' tax dollars.
Yeah, amazing. He was spending his time yesterday with Don Lemon defending his right to storm churches with protesters who are against ICE, against enforcing our immigration and customs laws. It just seems like so many elections is going to be an immigration election. Walk us through what your policy is, your position is on immigration right now as you run.
Well, I am really happy to see the border secured. Again, under Joe Biden for 4 years, it was anything but. And so these leftist elitists let in millions of people. You couldn't possibly vet all of them. And now we've got criminals and even terror suspects among us. It is up to law enforcement to do their job and root them out. We don't need extra criminals in our society. We simply don't. So what Tim Walz has done is called it fascist and racist to enforce the law. And then he has fanned the flames, calling ICE this invading force. It is that kind of rhetoric that has brought us to this environment where some people in Minnesota think it's their duty to go out and throw their bodies or their cars in front of ICE, to obstruct ICE, harass ICE, attack ICE. Look, I've talked to leaders in law enforcement here, and they wish that they were allowed to do more to help out, because this probably wouldn't have happened. The tragic story of Renee Good probably wouldn't have happened had the Minneapolis police, the Ramsey County police, the police locally here had been able to do their jobs and assist. This probably wouldn't have happened. What happened to Renee Good was awful and tragic and heartbreaking, but it could have been avoided had, first of all, the fans not been flamed by Walz and company, and had the police been allowed to do the jobs. One officer said to me, we risk life and limb to go bring a criminal into jail. Then they're released, And now you've got to have another officer go risk life and limb to round up the same criminal. It makes no sense. It's inefficient, and it's ended in tragedy in one particular case.
Yeah, you're right about this. And of course, if there wasn't any Somali fraud in the state, then she wouldn't have died, because that's why she was protesting the ICE presence, which was only there because of all of this fraud that had gone unchecked. So you get to Washington. Give me your top 3 priorities right off the bat.
Well, let's just start with leadership, because currently we've got a crisis there, particularly with the Minnesota delegation. I mean, we have prioritized and spent taxpayer money on illegal immigrants coming in. We put them in hotel rooms and fed them, while average American families are trying to pay their rent and trying to put food on the tables. That's kind of crazy. This current crop of leaders is insistent on the insanity of boys and men in girls and women's sports. That's simply that's more than an 80-20 issue. I think that's a 95-5 issue that is insanity. So it starts with leadership. Then it's law enforcement. You can't have a civil society if people don't feel safe. And that requires law enforcement. And I back the law enforcement 100%. And then we go into middle class crisis. Family, look, I'm a working mom. I know how hard it is for moms and dads out there to do that balancing act. We had horrible inflation under Joe Biden, so things became excruciatingly expensive. And we're trying to work our way out of that. So we've got to continue to bring taxes down, make things more affordable, groceries, rent, mortgages, all of those things. And we've got to get this attitude of, hey, let's give more power and money to big pharma, to teachers unions, to big government. We've got to get that leaner and give power and control back to the citizens.
Yeah, that is exactly right. Michele, I want you to, do you have a campaign website set? This is fresh as of this morning. Where should people go if they want to get involved?
And we are going to need all the help we can get. This is going to be a slog. MicheleTafoya.com, MicheleTafoya.com. If you can go chip in a couple of bucks, or if you want to volunteer, we need your help. We can't do this alone. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to plug that, Alex.
Absolutely. Come back anytime. We have a great podcast up on the Alex Marlow feed. I'll link that in the show notes today. Michele, terrific. Congrats on the launch. This is a big race, and we'll be watching it very closely in the Marlow Show and at Breitbart. Stick with me if you can. You're invited for another segment, but I got to take a break here. We'll be right back on the Marlow Show. Michele, give me more about the evolution from when you are a sideline reporter, you're traveling around the world, you're talking to some of the coolest athletes on the planet. All of a sudden you find yourself kind of in the political world, and then now you're running for a really important Senate seat, because this is an opportunity to take a blue state and make it at least purple right now. This is an incredible moment. You find yourself right in the middle of it. Take us through that journey.
It really started for me, Alex, on 9/11. That was sort of a political awakening for me. I'd just been married less than a year and saw the world differently. And I started really paying a lot closer attention to everything, started reading history more. I love this country. I always have. My dad, his parents were immigrants, and legal immigrants who came to this country. And he always told me, you've already won the lottery by being in America. And so I was, and I believe that with all of my whole heart. So for years and years, covering the NFL, as much fun, and covering the Olympics and the NBA and college football and college basketball, all that was so great and so fun. And I remember sometimes you're down on the field and you see the military guys. Sometimes they're the ones who bring the flag out for the national anthem, and you just want to go hug them all, because you appreciate so much the sacrifice they're making so that we can have what is the American lifestyle, the American dream. So all of this just continued to percolate within me. And I thought, from about 2018, I thought I was going to leave Sunday Night Football. I stayed on, got us through the COVID year, got us through another Super Bowl, and finally decided, this is the time for me to leave and start another chapter in my life. And as you know, I've done the podcast and I've been doing a lot of commentary. And the more I do it, Alex, and the more I learn and the more I see and the more frustrated I get with politics as usual, I thought, we're always looking for people of integrity to run. And I understand why people don't want to run. I'm already feeling it, believe me. But you know what? I have a spine. I have a thick skin. That's something that a television career will give you. But more than anything, I have a love of this country and a love of this state. And I don't want to see it slide into a place where we can't turn it around. So I think this is a tipping point, and that's why I jumped in.
This is really essential. I was thinking about this concept about what makes America special. Is it freedom or is it free stuff? And it seems like some of what the message that was imparted on you in your youth is it's the freedom. And then you see what's happening in Minnesota right now, and it's just people pursuing free stuff. And that is really essentially a massive problem. So what happened to your state and how do you fix it?
Well, I mean, I think it's been going on for a long time, and it's been covered up for a long time. And I don't think Minnesota is unique in this. I think we're starting to see it in California.
True.
I think
I
we're
agree.
going to see it in New York. We're going to see it in other places. Minnesota handled it so poorly, and now we've seen this billions and billions of fraud that was committed, money that was supposed to go to kids. How do we clean it up? I mean, look, we've got to ask tough questions. We've got to hold people to account. I think that's one of the things that Americans are really tired of seeing is no accountability for your actions when they're illegal, when they're immoral. And people want accountability. Most people in their jobs, in their fields, in their families would be held accountable for doing such thing, for telling lies, for defrauding people. Why are not our political elite held to that same standard? So I'm not in that political elite group, not even close. And it's time. It's time. This has gotten too big and gone too far, and it's got to be stopped.
You got great name ID. You think you've got bona fides as a mom, as a career woman, as someone who is not a hardcore radical in a blue state. I think you've got a real shot here, Michele. We're going to be cheering you on, and anytime you want to come back and update the Marlow audience and the Salem audience, the Breitbart audience, we're here for you. Give us that website one more time where people need to go.
I would be happy to give you the website again, Alex. It's MicheleTafoya.com. MicheleTafoya.com. This is going to be a slog, folks.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. We will take all the help we can get. Join us, join the team, MicheleTafoya.com. We'd love to have your help. Thank you for that, Alex.
And thank you, Michele. And what's really interesting also, if Klobuchar becomes the governor, there could be 2 Senate races. So maybe you'll have to run twice, but hopefully only once and win. Michele Tafoya, thank you.